In a land that I dreamed of, once in a lullaby. Yeah. Well, hello, good people. Some people sing happy birthday. You can sing anything. Just make sure before you start preparing food, even if you're preparing for yourself at home for your family, wash your hands. Today we're going to prepare some sauteed pork and cabbage. It's a big favorite around here. They're harvesting cabbage left and right down in Texas right now, but I do have some left that I'm going to prepare for you right now. Here's the recipe. This is the way we start out. I'm going to begin with garlic. I've got 4 cloves here. This is store-bought garlic. This is not my own garlic. If this was my own garlic, I would only need 2 cloves, but this is store-bought and it's at least a year old. The older your spices get, the less potent they are. Also, the poorer the quality of the spice to begin with, the more you need. To prepare garlic, after you peel it, squash it flat with your knife, just like you saw back at Hogwarts. Once you squash it, you can commence mincing. A good technique for mincing vegetables. Whenever you're chopping, keep the point of your blade on the cutting surface. Use your fingernails, the back of your fingernails, as a guide for the blade. So you're coming down and across here. The blade's never going to intersect with your fingers. So you can chop quite quickly and not cut yourself. After the garlic, we're going to get a little bit of onion in here. I'm going to take half of 1 onion. Cut that into slivers about that big. Okay, so I've got garlic and some onion in the pan. The only thing else I need is some cayenne pepper. This we did grow in our own garden last year. It is quite hot. Now you could always use the prepackaged stuff, but I grow my own. After handling a hot pepper like this, before you do anything like pick your nose, wipe your eyes, things like that, go to the bathroom, make sure you wash your hands thoroughly, then wash them again because this stuff burns. Having a trash can in the kitchen that you can open by stepping on a pedal is great. That means you don't have to reach down and grab anything nasty with your hands that you're trying to prepare food with. I try to follow some of the same rules here in the home kitchen that I would at a professional kitchen. Note, I said try. I don't necessarily always succeed. Next, we're going to use some oil. In this case, I'm using some extra virgin olive oil. This is an inferior product. Not that there's anything wrong with this brand, I'm just saying that extra virgin olive oil is an inferior product. I'm using it because I don't have any hazelnut oil left. Okay, that would be a lie. I don't have any hazelnut oil at all. I'm growing the hazelnut trees. I haven't got any oil out of them. They're a little bit on the young side. Okay, now I'm being honest. Oil in the pan. Fire, but not a high fire. Use a low fire. Delicate oils like olive, hazelnut, or pecan oil, if you're fortunate enough to have the superior quality oils, don't like a lot of high heat. Peanut oil, you can turn the heat up 400 degrees, 500 degrees, and the oil won't break down. But light oils like olive oil, hazelnut oil, things of that nature, high heat will destroy that oil and ruin the flavor and also create a few byproducts that you may not want to eat. Particularly in the case of soybean oil, which I don't recommend you use at all for cooking. Soybean oil is very prone to polymerization. The oil cooks down and produces plastic right there in your skillet. If you want to be eating plastic that you made on the spot, well, at least it'll be fresh, but I'd rather not. The cookware that we're using today is a granite stone skillet, 18 inches in diameter. This is an enamel coating over steel. There is no Teflon, so there's nothing that's going to bake off over time and get into your food that may do something harmful to your health if you're worried about that sort of thing. This isn't cheap, but it's not overly expensive either. I picked this up at the local ranch store. You may have something similar near where you live. Go check them out. They're good cookware, very durable, they last a long time. Now, I'm using a wooden spatula instead of a Teflon or plastic one for much the same reason. To the mixture of onions and garlic and hot pepper that I put into the skillet there, being very careful not to rub my eyes, I'm going to add a little bit of cumin. This is powdered cumin. I'm growing cumin in my garden right now, but obviously it's not ready to harvest for its seeds, so I have to make do with some pre-powdered cumin from elsewhere. I'm just going to add that right there and leave it alone. Let this cook down for a few minutes. While we're waiting for this to cook down, I'm going to prepare some of the other vegetables. Okay, so the difference between medium heat and low heat. This is high heat. It's up at full blast. Oof, you're going to burn your food. Medium heat is that point where as you bring the pan down, the flame begins to spread ever so slightly to touch the bottom of the pan. Low heat is that point where there's no difference in the height of the flame when there's a pan on it or off of it. That back burner is a little delicate. Let's just put that pan right there. Low heat, just a little oil. Okay, so for veggies, what do we have here? We have the cabbage, obviously. We've got some carrots, a bell pepper that I've already cored, and the other half of an onion. Let's start out with the easy stuff. Carrots. We're going to matchstick the carrots, so we're going to cut them to about 2 to 2.5 inches long. That's about it. That's a little long. And that's a little long, so they'll go good together. Now we just take that carrot and cut it in half. Turn it sideways, like so. And then we're going to shave down the side, producing a plank of carrot. That's maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. About the half the width of the carrot to begin with, and 2 inches long or so. You could do this other ways if you want to. It doesn't really matter. The rules to cooking aren't really rules. They're more like guidelines. Except when you're making gumbo, always start with a roux. Non-negotiable, you must start with a roux when making gumbo. Don't forget that. I have to say that or Rod would kill me. We're wanting to cook this down until the garlic and the onions begin to get brown. We're not there yet. They need a little bit more time, so we'll just let them sit right there. While that's going on, let's get this cabbage cut out. Once again, using the fingernail as a guide for the surface of the blade, not the edge, just the side of the blade. This keeps you from cutting your fingers. You can also curl around and use the knuckle as you get closer to the end of whatever it is you're cutting. Shredding the cabbage to about this width is not absolutely necessary. You could cut it into inch or even 2-inch pieces. It's all a matter of personal preference. I like it shredded, so I'm shredding it. Next we're going to have, let's try this onion. Now for my not quite so well cooked onions, I'm going to want larger pieces. So I'm just going to coarse chop them to about inch and a half or so. Now we're going to address the bell pepper. A couple of different ways you could go from here. I could cut it in half here, or I can cut strips.
I like strips.
I could even cut strips and then cut them in half for bite-sized pieces. If you're processing a lot of vegetables, you're going to want to figure out a way to cut some time off of that overall preparation period. So cutting a piece into strips and then cutting all the strips in half seems like a good way to save time. Imagine doing it the other way, where you cut it in half and now you've got to come back and cut your strips twice. I wouldn't want to do that, but we're just killing time right now because our onions and garlic haven't browned yet. Alright, let's bring this down to a low heat right there. And we're just going to let our seasonings, a little bit more oil there, just going to let our seasonings cook down and take their sweet time caramelizing. Alright, now, even if you leave the room for a minute, you can smell as you start to enter that stage of caramelization. You don't want this stuff to burn. The caramelization is just where it begins to turn brown in the pan. And we're starting to get to that point here. It's going to finish up over the next few minutes. So I'm just going to spread this out over the surface of the skillet. Now it's time to add some meat. What I have here is pork tenderloin, thin sliced. And you want to slice this as thin as you can get it. Now Now don't go think I got all fancy. I didn't go out and buy a pork tenderloin just to cut it up into strips. What I did was, while I was at the store, I saw that they had a special on pork tenderloin tips. And the tips are those ends of the tenderloin that they cut off whenever they're making the premium cut of meat. Since it's not suitable for a steak, it gets sold for a lower price. This I got for $1.59 a pound, which is not bad for premium meat. Now I can send this to be washed. It'll be ready to be used to store meat in the next time we're ready to cut it up and cook another batch. Now I handled raw meat with this hand, so you know what I've got to do. Before I do anything else, this needs to be washed. Birthday to you. What? That's not the way it goes? Oh, I know what you're thinking.
Zoo.
Happy birthday to you. You live in a zoo. You look like a monkey. Oh, and you smell like one too. So I'm drying my hands off after making the error of touching the back of the stove. I guess I should point something out to you. If you can see this sort of taupe color on this back wall. This is supposed to be white ceramic tile. It's taupe because we don't have a vent hood here. So every bit of grease that gets aerosolized winds up sticking to the walls, and Lord only knows what kind of nasty stuff can grow in that. So if anybody's out there in the process of building their own home, or perhaps going to buy a new home, good tip, look for a vent hood. Make sure you have one. It's a great way to enhance the hygiene of your cooking space. And don't do what some people do whenever you're cooking spaghetti. Don't pick it up and throw it against the wall to see if it sticks to make sure it's done. Boil your water, put your noodles in, stir them until they get tender enough to be submerged. Shut off the water, cover it, walk away for 10 minutes. Come back, your noodles will be perfectly done. That's all you have to do. This is a time currently when a lot of people are eating at home. And a lot of people are discovering how to go about cooking food from scratch. And if you're one of those people, I'm so dreadfully sorry that this happened. But you have to use this as your excuse to discover the joy of doing your own cooking, because let me tell you, you can cook some really good gourmet meals right here at home and pay pennies on the dollar for what you'd pay at a restaurant. Now that doesn't mean you should stop going to the restaurants either. There are some excellent cooks out there making wonderful food, and absolutely, whenever you get the opportunity to go out and visit them, do so. We're going to let this pork cook down for just a little bit before we add the rest of the veggies. Alright, so low heat. I don't know if I can teach you how to do that, but I just did. I'll try. You want to have your pan at a low angle. Push forward and then pull it up and back, up and back. Probably try with something that doesn't cost $15 a pound or more when you're practicing. Of course, this only cost $1.59 a pound. If I wind up losing some, it's no big deal. We will all survive. Alright, next, we've got our chopped vegetables right here. And it's time for them to say hello to the skillet. And this is why we have an 18-inch skillet. An 18-inch skillet is large enough to accommodate a whole half head of cabbage at once, without it being weird. Once again, we're going to let this sit, low heat, and give it some time to let these veggies wilt down a bit before we begin mixing it. So, now that the veggies have had a chance to wilt down a little bit, you can smell. That fresh green pepper smell coming up, that fresh onion smell coming up as that releases. It's time to get this mixed in a little bit. Our objective right now is try to make sure that we get some of that oil on each piece of vegetable in this mix. The oil is what's going to transfer the heat and cook the vegetables. There's also going to be some steam coming out from the cabbage and the peppers and the onions, maybe a little bit from the carrots. That is also going to aid in the cooking process. Oh, I should probably mention that was about 1.5 pounds of pork tips that we put in there. The package was 3 pounds altogether. I cooked some up last night. It was delicious, but you didn't get to see it. I'm sorry about that. The camera wasn't turned on for the entire cooking process. Go figure. But that's okay, because I had another half of a head of cabbage. I had another 1.5 pounds of pork tips to cook. And this is a dish that I can eat every day, all day, day in, day out, and never get tired of. As a matter of fact, at the local Chinese restaurant, which unfortunately right now is not open for business, this is the dish that I get there most often. They do a wonderful job of it. I do okay. Their portions are huge too. Oh my goodness. Huge portions. They love serving food to folks that appreciate food. And I think that's really a big part of it. You have to love what you're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, find something else to do. A lot of people are out there working jobs that they hate just to make money. And yes, there are jobs that are just hard to love. But you know what? The hardest jobs I've ever done, the ones that were hardest to love, the thing that I found to love about them was it gave me the opportunity to be of service. And sometimes that just fulfills a need in a person, to be of service. You can laugh about that if you want to, but it's a real thing. I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper. At some point in the future, I'm going to have my own pepper plants. And by pepper plants, I don't mean peppers like this bell pepper here. I mean peppers like a pepper tree. That's where peppercorns come from, what black pepper is made out of. Now here in Zone 7A, you can't grow the black pepper, but you can grow a version that is common in China and Japan called sansho or Sichuan pepper. It tastes a little bit different, but for this kind of food, I think it would be perfect. Alright, we're coming along now. So let's sit for a little bit, and we'll be back for a few finishing touches. Well, alright, we're getting pretty close to being done here. Our vegetables have wilted down very nicely. We're actually starting to see some browning. And this is about the point where you want to stop. You don't want your vegetables to get all the way browned. A little bit of browning on your cabbage is fine. Some people like it slightly scorched. I personally don't. But the other thing you want to look for is at this point here. Pardon my fingers, I'll just eat this when I'm done. What we have here is a pepper that has cooked to the point where it is tender and very hot. Tender, but juicy and still firm. That's perfect. Also, it hasn't lost its color yet. So we have tender but firm vegetables, still plenty of color. If we let this go too much longer, our vegetables are going to start to scorch. So, what we're going to do now is add our salt. But I don't want to use table salt or Lowry's. I love Lowry's. But we're just going to add some soy sauce for salt. And you don't want to use much. Just a few drops, because what we're doing is adding salt. Now, that didn't seem like a lot, and it's not. But you put too much soy sauce into your food, the only thing you're going to taste is the soy sauce. You put a little bit of soy sauce in your food, you'll have a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of an influence from that soy sauce, but you taste the food. And now I'm going to turn the fire up. All right, hear that good sizzle going on there? Cell walls in the vegetables are rupturing. Water is bursting forth, coming into contact with the hot surface of the oil and the skillet, turning into steam, kissing, rising up, finishing off the cooking process. And we just toss it just a little bit. Oh yeah, whenever you slide it, you hear that sizzle as it slides. Whenever you don't hear a sizzle when you slide it, you need to put the food back down again. Let the skillet heat up again. All right, here comes that good sizzle again. There we go. You can hear it as the food moves. It sizzles. That's good. I'm just tossing it and tossing it. Just mixing in that soy sauce and the oil. All the spices that we've cooked down throughout this entire process. That tiny little bit of cumin that we added early on has at this point released all of its aromatics, and now it is just a background note in the food. It's not overpowering. If you were cooking something like a chili, then you would want more cumin. You want the cumin to be more dominant. But in sauteed pork and cabbage, just a background note is fine. All right, and I think we're just about there. What do you think? How does it look, guys? Does that look like something you might want to eat? All right, we're going to let this rest for a minute, and then we'll plate it up and see how people like it. Food resting in skillet, 3 to 5 minutes, and then it'll be ready to go into your bowl.
Okay, so let's record.
All right, so I guess the big question is, after all of that, how does it taste? Well, let's find out. Onions are still slightly crisp. Cabbage, tender, but firm. There's carrot. Tender, firm. You can really taste that hot pepper. Good heat, not bad heat. Good heat. There's a piece of that pork. That's good. That's good. It's just done. It's not overcooked. It's not undercooked. Very tender. One of these peppers. Some good eating right there. All right. Guys, I'm going to finish this up. Sorry for talking with a mouthful. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, bang that notification bell, leave some comments down below, and I will catch you guys next time. Where trouble's not like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where